Today, I'll be giving you 10 of the best Bedwars tips that I've learned over the past 4 years. From PvPing against the best players to secret tricks that only I know, this is everything you need to know to win Bedwars. To begin, I'll first teach you everything you need to know about PvP. The most useful PvP mechanic you could learn is hit selecting. Now there are 4 different types of hit selects. The first one I'll cover is known as the short. To pull this off, all you need to do is start clicking as soon as your opponent's about to hit you, letting them get the first hit. And if you do it right, you'll get a double hit which will start your combo. And that's literally all a hit select is. However, if you can't seem to get it down, there is an easier way to practice and get used to this. All you need to do is jump before you get hit. In this clip, I jump right before short hit selecting, baiting out my opponent's first hit and easily win the fight. However, bear in mind that if you mistime your jump, there's a very high chance that you'll get 2-tapped off the bridge, so make sure to not get too close while jumping. The second type of hit select is known as the long. It's literally almost the same thing, however you start clicking as your player gets close to hitting the ground, fully abusing that low ground advantage. It's also a great way to mess up your opponent's aim and get a free combo. Anyways, the third type of hit select is the double. It combines the benefit of the long hit select where you mess up your opponent's aim and the short hit select where you get a free double hit. And it's the funniest way to make someone mad. However, if you do this every fight, your opponents will catch on and counter it, so make sure you switch it up. Now, deciding which type of hit select to use is not something I can teach, as it's based on every specific fight, so the best thing you can do is practice these yourself, and once you're comfortable with hit selecting, you can decide which works best in your specific case. However, the fourth and final type of hit select will work in almost every single fight you take. It's known as the mid-trade. The first method of mid-trading is to hit select within a hit sequence. Basically, while you're in the middle of a fight, you can let your opponent start hitting you first within the trade and then hit them with a short hit select, and that will work as a hit select. The second method is to completely end the trade and go for a short hit select while they're still expecting you to be clicking. So basically just baiting out your opponent's first hit. As long as you keep practicing this mechanic, once you've got them down, you will win nearly every fight you take. And that's the end of tip number 1. The next tip I have is the W tap. Now there are actually a couple uses of W tapping. The first one is to reduce knockback, and you do this by simply W tapping after you get a hit. So once you pair a W tap to reduce knockback with a hit select to get a double hit, you can start using W tapping to space yourself and hold a combo, which is the second use. So to simplify it, W tapping after getting hit reduces your knockback, and you can use W tapping while hitting someone to space yourself. The next tip I have is block hitting. Now everyone knows if you block hit as you get hit, you can reduce damage. However, if you block hit mid-trade, you can get an extra hit. Block hitting somehow helps you maximize reach, and I'm not sure why this works, but it's really broken. Whether it's the first or second hit, if you block hit correctly, you will get maximum reach. However, the only downside is block hitting reduces your sprint, so if you do mess up, you're just gonna lose the fight. So definitely just pick your moments. The last tip I have for PvP is just gonna be some general advice. To maximize your chances of getting good hit reg, what you want to do is time your hits. You can see me do this in every clip. I only click when I need to hit my opponent. This ensures I don't accidentally go above Hypixel's CPS cap of 15 and cause my hits to stop registering. Also, if you notice in some of these clips, when I get a little too far from my opponents, I start aiming down at their legs. The reason why I do this is because if I aim there, I'll get the first hit. I don't know why that's how reach works, but it is, so keep that in mind. Also, recently there is a program that's been developed which automatically enhances your PC's network connections, so if the reason you're having problems in-game is due to unstable Wi-Fi, this might be something you want to try out. Now, I've seen it be promoted by YouTubers like Vase and Doerier, and I believe Bedwars uses it, so I started using it myself, and it's been pretty good. The only downside is that it's a paid software, but regardless, I'll leave a link in the description. Before you spend money on it, keep in mind it's not a cheat, so it won't instantly make you better, but it will make your gameplay a lot smoother and fix any Wi-Fi issues you might have. Anyways, now we can move on to more Gamesense based tips. The most important piece of advice I can give you is to have a passive playstyle. Now this is a bit harder to teach, as again, it's very situational, but I can show you examples. In this clip, instead of pushing a fight where my opponent had a wall behind his back, I waited for him to mess up, getting a free 2-tap, and had just enough health to kill his teammate. And because of that, I was able to get the bet and finish the game quickly. Another example is in this clip where I finished bridging to my opponent's diamond gen. I stopped for a second to decide if I had to take the fight or not. When I realized I did, I put myself in a lucky position where I had a wall behind my back, and I knew I'd win the fight because of it. A final example of a passive playstyle and also the next tip is diamond collecting. Playing the diamond game is very important no matter what type of Bedwars game mode you're playing. In this example, I used my diamond clutch strat to get every diamond gen on the map, by far the easiest way to stack up on as many diamonds as possible. And of course, if you're on smaller maps, then the bridge eggs aren't necessary. You can just bridge to every diamond gen. Tip number 7 is abusing blocks. Now, the most common use of blocks in PvP is to stop people sprint and hit them off the map, but there's so many cool ways you can outplay your opponents just by placing blocks unpredictably. For example, after I used blocks to hit this guy off, I made a 2 tall pillar to stop his sprint and start a free combo. Since he's holding W and not predicting the blocks, I already know that I need to move around them and he doesn't. You can also do fancy things like middle exiting, which is so annoying to counter. Another common use of using blocks is to break beds. Whether you're simply blocking someone from hitting you or blocking into a bed defense. Although, if you are blocking in against good players, you might want to use endstone or wood, only because recently shares have become so common. Aside from PvP and breaking beds, clutching is easily the best way to use blocks. Not only does it look cool as hell, it basically works as a second life after your opponent thinks they've killed you or if you accidentally mess up. Now, most tutorials would say the best way to learn this is one of those clutching servers, but realistically, it's just a waste of time. The only way to really learn it is to be playing the game as you would and let the opportunities come naturally. And eventually, you'll become comfortable with the mechanics and aiming your mouse to clutch. Tip number 8 is low ground versus high ground. This clip is a good example of abusing low ground. I put myself in a position where I could surprise my opponent from beneath, kill them without them expecting it, and then did the exact same thing to my next opponent. For some reason, having low ground makes it a lot easier to get extra hits in fights. So in some cases, if you can, it's a lot better to put yourself in that situation. You can also try to force low ground by placing blocks beneath your opponent, but if you're too slow or mess up, you'll just get flawless. So be careful with that. Now, high ground is personally my favorite thing to abuse. As long as you play passively, you can literally abuse high ground to win a fight even if you have close to no health. Whether it's being annoying with block placements or fall damage ticks, it's the easiest thing to abuse. For example, in this clip, after killing 2 players and being on close to half health, I managed to abuse high ground and play passive for 2 more kills, then abuse it again and full damage tick the 5th player. This was also a really good rush because not only did I kill 5 people clearing pressure, I also stole diamonds. This clip literally shows me abusing every tip I've covered so far. Moving on to the 9th tip, which is fireball abusing. Now, fireballs are easily the most broken item in the game. You can fireball jump onto people and they won't expect it, or fireball jump backwards onto a bed and break it, or even fireball off the last 2 finals in a game and get an easy win. For some reason, they're so cheap, you should definitely abuse this item. The way I use fireballs 90% of the time is to get away from fights I can't win when I'm a final kill. The only advice I can give on fireballs, aside from using them, is to save as many as you can and only use them when necessary. For example, if you're in a Bedwars game clutching, don't throw them at people mindlessly, since a lot of good players can easily avoid them just by moving out of the way. So as good as they are, it's very easy to misplace or mess up with them. And last but not least, tip number 10 is just gonna be some more general game sense based advice. Realistically, aside from everything I've covered in this video, there's not much you can do to instantly improve your gameplay. I'd recommend keeping these tips in mind every time you play. You can watch the video as you play or just listen to the audio in the background if you need, and eventually you'll get comfortable with the game. Although most of this video was recorded from ranked Bedwars, I made sure to only use the most important tips that apply to the game as a whole, and not just specific to ranked Bedwars. I would also suggest playing ranked, as it is easily the hardest Bedwars game mode, therefore requires you to always play your best. Keep in mind, just like any other gaming community, there is gonna be toxicity and hate, but it's also just as easy to not care what people say and to just remember that you're there for fun. Oh, and that secret trick I spoke about in the intro is basically this no fall damage thing. Since I don't play a lot, I don't know if it still exists. I'm guessing it's patched, but if you shift as you hit the ground, time it very accurately, you won't take fall damage. And yes, I did gatekeep it in this video to stop people from abusing it. I'm trying to keep Hypixel safe, okay? Anyways, thank you for watching. If this video gets a lot of love, I guess I could make another one. And shout out BanjeeRL for sending me his tip. Click this video.